Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
There has always been this great secret within the circles of the colonial elite about who the American Indians were. In the early days of colonialism, many learned religious men took note of the Indians and the characteristics they found in connection with this idea. Over time, this idea became lost and suppressed as the agenda to fabricate history unfolded. If the question is, how is America Egypt? Then the answer is Hebrews in America. If the answer is Hebrews in America, then the question is, who the fuck are these people? This video will be a culmination of things we have learned throughout this series, America is Egypt, combined with things we have learned from the smartest beast in the field. It is essential to have at least seen a few episodes of the smartest beast in the field in order to grasp the material in this video. First, to understand the context of America is Egypt, or even Hebrews in America, it's important to understand the historical context of such a statement on a basic level. What is a Hebrew? What is a Jew? What is an Israelite? These are not synonymous terms. All Hebrews are not Israelites, and all Israelites are not Jews.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, smash the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Shout out to the folks watching on TikTok. Shout out to the folks watching on YouTube. We're going to go ahead and get into it, y'all. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We're here to give you the information you desperately need. Never knew you was missing. We got the StreamYard link posted for the YouTube audience. If anybody wants to call in, now is the time to do so. If you're watching on TikTok, you already know how to call in. But let's go ahead and get into it. Right now, we're reacting to a little bit of footage from UBTV. Check him out on YouTube. He's a great scholar. But right now, he's highlighting the Hebrew connection with the American Indians that most people are not aware of. You know, on the surface, if you talk about American Indians being Hebrew or part of a lost tribe or something, I mean, a lot of people will just discount that as some kind of pseudo conspiratorial claim, right? But in actuality, there were Hebrew artifacts found amongst the indigenous tribes of the Americas. Exhibit A, the Decalogue Stone. This Decalogue Stone was found with Hebrew inscription, and that image is supposed to be depicting Abraham. You've also got the Keystone, another Hebrew artifact found in indigenous mound sites. You've got the Bat Creek Stone, which actually was an amazing cover-up. The Smithsonian took this, hid it in the basement. When someone finally went and checked it out, they said, damn, y'all got it upside down too? Excuse me. Come on, y'all. The Smithsonian hiding it in the basement wasn't good enough. They hid it in the basement and had it upside down. That's diabolical. Crazy work. Upside down in the basement. For years, the Smithsonian said, yes, this is a true artifact. This is a true, oh, and hold on, guys. My YouTube audience is not seeing what I'm showing on the screen. Hold on. Here we go. And actually, I'm going to share this a different way. Let me make sure you can see everything. So again, guys, right now we're looking at the Back Creek Stone. We're looking at the Back Creek Stone. Smithsonian took this, buried it in the basement, displayed it upside down. They claim that these were Cherokee inscriptions. Well, some researchers come by, they flip it right side up. They say, no, this is Hebrew. So as soon as it's exposed that this is Hebrew, the Smithsonian says, okay, never mind, the artifact's fake. The Smithsonians are the ones that discovered it, so to speak. I mean, they were ransacking one of our ancestral mound sites. The Smithsonian Institute finds the artifact. They authenticate the artifact. But as soon as we find that the artifact doesn't have Cherokee inscription, it has Hebrew, now the Smithsonian says, you know what? The artifact's fake after all. That's how they get down. Guys, do you know that there's so many, damn near every single European that came over here, every single pilgrim, conquistador, academic, did you know it doesn't matter whether they're German, French, Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, British? Do you know that they all came to the same conclusion that the American Indians had Hebrew culture and descend from a lost tribe? Guys, ChatGPT is not the end all be all. ChatGPT is a tool and you got to use it effectively. We're going to use this tool to see if it can pull some sources for me. Can you give me a chronological list of every single European explorer that came to the Americas and wrote publications where they alleged or concluded that indigenous tribes of the Americas had Hebrew custom, Hebrew culture, or Hebrew origins, or were descendant of a lost tribe? And I want this ranked in order from the earliest account to more recent accounts. Watch this, guys. Let's see some sources, some texts, some documents. Did you know that all these Europeans came over here and they're like, damn, these American Indians are Hebrew? I didn't know this until I became a American Indian scholar myself. I didn't know this 2 years ago. Come on. But as I find new information, I share it with my audience, and here we are today. But guys, watch. We're gonna get a full list. We're gonna get a full breakdown. And guys, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. You won't find me dressed like a Dungeons and Dragon character yelling on a megaphone. I mean, but it's interesting how what they preach about, there's a seed of truth in it, at least a seed of truth. ChatGPT is clarifying exclusions and limitations, compiling a chronological list of explorers reporting Hebrew origins, adding important figures. And Multimeyer, respectfully, please don't go down the Dane Calloway conspiratorial rabbit hole on my channel. We're talking about true, factual, indigenous American history. We ain't going down rabbit holes of, did Harriet Tubman really exist, or is she a fabric of the imagination of the United States government? I mean, go watch Dane Calloway for that. He's just here to make you think, right? I'm here to give you the information that leads you to doing your genealogy, that leads you to getting reconnected with the ancestral tribe that your ancestors were affiliated with, that then leads to rectification, which involves reparations, restitution, and everything above. I mean, we're here for solutions. We're not here for entertainment. Here we go. We got that full list. We got that full breakdown. Number 1, Fray Diego Duran. He wrote something called Historia de las Indias de Nueva España. He wrote this in 1581. Duran repeatedly draws Aztec Hebrew parallels. He leans into a Hebrew lineage reading of Mexican origins, or Mexica origins. So again, we got this dude in 1581 claiming that there's an Aztec Hebrew parallel. We've got Fray Gregorio Garcia. He wrote something called Origin de los Indios del Nuevo Mundo e Indias Occidentales. I butchered that terribly, but it's okay. Let's work through it. This was a major early compendium on American origins that treats the lost tribes / Israelite hypothesis as a live option. Garcia had spent 12 years in the Americas before composing the book. So Garcia is over here in our ancestral homeland for 12 years doing reconnaissance, getting the information, spying, And after 12 years, he writes a book. And he hypothesizes that we're a part of a lost Israelite tribe. Okay. You got Ives. He wrote something called Voyage a Nord de Brazil. This is field work. So he was in the field. He was in the trenches. He was out there writing notes in the field. In 1611, he reports Tupi customs and explicitly compares certain practices to those of ancient Israelites, like body cutting banned in Deuteronomy. I've never read Deuteronomy. I guess there's body cutting that's banned in Deuteronomy. He uses Hebraic frames to interpret ritual behavior. You've got Antonio de Montesinos. He wrote something called Relation de Aharon Leve in 1644. And he claims that he encountered Israelite Indians near Quito who recited the Shema. Yeah, I'm not a Hebrew. I don't even know what the Shema is, but apparently American Indians were reciting it, identifying them as tribes of Reuben/Levi. His report was reproduced and popularized in Europe. Reverend John Eliot, he wrote something called Jews in America, 1660. Damn. They ain't gonna teach you this in school. Diego Andreas Roca. He's a Peruvian printed treatise canvassing and at points advancing Hebraic/Iberian Jewish descent scenarios for American Indians. Later editions and studies explicitly index it under, quote, Lost Tribes of Israel. You've got Joseph Francois. He's a famous missionary ethnography that systematically compares Iroquois lifeways with those of the earliest times. He repeatedly invoked ancient Hebrew and Judaic rites to explain similarities. And last but not least, we got James Adair. He wrote something called The History of the American Indians in 1775. After 30 plus years, we heard from an author earlier who spent 12 years with American Indians and then said they were Israelites. This fool spent 30 plus years among southeastern nations. That's our ancestors. The Southeast, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana. That's where all Black Americans come from, right? The Southeast. After 30 years among southeastern nations, Adair argued outright that people such as the Catawba, the Cherokee, the Muskogee, that's my tribe, the Choctaw and the Chickasaw descend from the Israelites, listing detailed ritual/language parallels. Hey, and again, ChatGPT is a tool that's not the end-all be-all. This is a tool that just gave us 8 different sources, dates, names, and titles of publications that you can now research on your own time. That's how scholarship works in the 21st century. Let's talk about it. But guys, let's get back to the video. UBTV was about to cook up when it comes to this Hebrew connection.
Quote, by the Levitical law, the people who had running issues or sores were deemed unclean and strictly ordered apart from the rest for fear of polluting them. For everything they touched became unclean. The Indians, as in a strict manner, observe the very same law. In terms of purity, these are very peculiar characteristics of the Indian that are undeniably parallel to the so-called Hebrews.
I'm just in love.
Quote, Star in the West, Elias Bodendot. Quote, page 113. Quote, the Indians to the eastward say that previous to the white people coming into the country, their ancestors were in the habit of using circumcision. But laterally, not being able to assign any reason for so strange a practice, their young people insisted on it being abolished. Mackenzie says the same of the Indians he saw on his route, even at this day. History page 34, speaking of...
So these white boys come over here to the Americas and they see indigenous tribes that are circumcising their youth. Where'd they get that from? It's such an ancient practice, such an ancient tradition with these tribes that the youth don't even know where the practice comes from. Since the elders can't even explain where it comes from, they're like, yo, let's abolish it. We trying to go with the elephant trunks.
Of the nations of the slave and dog rib Indians very far to the northwest. He says, whether circumcision be practiced among them, I cannot pretend to say, but the appearance of it was general amongst those I saw. It's crazy. So they was just walking around with their dick out. I mean, was they that butt naked, especially in the northwest? You know, it's cold and damp up there, bro. Anyway, I'll be all right. Continuing, Dr. Beatty says in his journal of a visit he paid to the Indians on the Ohio about 50 years ago that an old Christian Indian informed him that an uncle of his, who died about the year 1728, related to him several customs and traditions of former times. Among others, that circumcision was practiced among the Indians long ago. But their young men, making a mock of it, brought it into disrepute. So it became disused. End quote. Star in the West. Quote, the storyline was further reinforced in 1650 when Thomas Thorogood substantially expanded the list of affinities by noting an American affinity for circumcision, as originally reported by Columbus. Along with Columbus's discovery of North America, he noted that many of the natives there were circumcised. The advanced civilizations of pre-Columbian America practiced circumcision, although the more primitive tribal people did not. Once again, this may reflect the loss of ritual in times of privatation.
Okay, so on the one hand, I'm thinking, what kind of freak nasty diddy freak off shit was these Europeans doing to where they were seeing so many of our Johnsons? But you know what it probably was? In our community, many communities, we let the little kids, little toddlers kind of just run around, you know. They just so I can imagine if back in the day, you know, little toddlers run around naked or whatever, or maybe one of them ran out of their loincloth. So you see, okay, you know, not circumcised or circumcised, right? Got it. Otherwise, how are these Europeans seeing all these indigenous Johnsons for them to be like, yeah, you know, Hebrew, yeah, circumcised. You guys, damn, all these penises are circumcised. Huh? I mean, all right.
The Spanish conquistadors banned the practice as part of their systematic destruction of the indigenous cultures. It is now rare in South America, though more common in Latin North America. Quote, the Indians have customs consonant to the Mosaic law of uncleanness. They oblige their women in their lunar retreats to build small huts at as considerable distance.
And you know what? I've got an older half sister who's part of a different tribe through her mother. So, you know, she's Creek through my dad, our shared father, then some tribe over in like Santa Rosa area for the mother side. And her mother's side of the family, the women in the family would talk about this low key with like disdain, like, oh, look how backwards our ancestors were. But I remember when I was young, they were telling me about how in their tribe, they would separate the women. They would kind of quarantine the women and make them stay in a teepee or a hut or something by themselves when they were on their menstrual cycle. But when I actually do the research and I do the scholarship, I learn it's because of their ancient religious practice where they felt that when a woman's on her cycle, there's some kind of, you know, spiritual, metaphysical stuff going on to where, hey, she should be over there by herself. Or maybe it was just something they came up with because they knew that women were a bit angry on their period. So they was like, you know what? The Lord wants you to be over there for a few days.
From their dwelling houses, as they imagine may be out of the enemy's reach. That Bishop was too rational to adopt the hypothesis embraced by Acosta and Torquemada that the devil had actually counterfeited the history, laws, rites, ceremonies, and customs of the Jews in the New World. But he believed that the Hebrews had colonized America. So here's what they were putting out. If the Indians were doing anything that resembled Hebrews or Jews, the devil actually came to them and made them counterfeit the stuff the real Jews.
Come on. There's so much evidence of the Hebrew practices of our indigenous ancestors. So the colonizers are like, yeah, you know, they got a pact with the devil, so they're doing like a twisted version of the Hebrew stuff. Meanwhile, these images right here depict what they were doing to our ancestors. Look at these images. I mean, this is worse than the most gory of gory Hollywood movies. Just looking at these drawings, look at this. Spearing them, hanging them above fires in groups, live autopsies, butchering them in half, taking the children and splitting them in half, attack dogs butchering them, roasting them on fires, burning them in houses, chopping off arms.
To adopt the hypothesis, embraced by Acosta and Torquemada, that the devil had actually counterfeited the history, laws, rites, ceremonies, and customs of the Jews in the New World. But he believed that the Hebrews had colonized America. So here's what they were putting out. If the Indians were doing anything that resembled Hebrews or Jews, the devil actually came to them and made them counterfeit.
Come on, y'all. Impaling children. This is a child with a spear up its rectum through the top of its spinal column. This is what they were doing to our ancestors. And you really expect these people to educate your children? You really expect them to give them knowledge of self? Look at this mass grave in the pit. Damn. Damn.
The stuff the real Jews were doing. This is the shit they were putting out now. This is official doctrine. In reference to the Mexicans and other Indian tribes whom he took Las Casas to be real Hebrews, the words Loqueta tua manifestum te facit in reference to the Mexicans and other Indian tribes.
Come on, y'all. Throwing them off of hills, whipping them at the posts, using them as target practice with the bow and arrow. Y'all, if this is what they're doing to us, you don't think they would also keep some of us as alive as slaves and then reclassify us and then lie to their descendants about where they really come from? I mean, if this is what they're doing to us, you think they're going to go all the way to Africa for a fucking slave when they're already butchering and massacring our people? Okay. Yeah, guys. They're going to import Africans from the other side of the world instead of sparing some of these folks and taking them as slaves to work their own indigenous land that they know how to work, right? Oh, no. I guess it makes more sense to you for them to take an African from the other side of the world that's never been to the Americas, that's never seen indigo and tobacco and all these crops that are indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to bring them over here and then train them on how. No, the first slaves in the Americas were the indigenous tribes.
Who he took to be real Hebrews deserve serious attention, because we have here the opinion of a person who is well acquainted with the Mexicans and Peruvians and who proceeded to America immediately after its discovery by the Spanish. Spent there the greater part of a long life and solemnly recorded in a testamentary document his conviction of a fact which he might have had many reasons for choosing not to divulge. Las Casas goes so far as to say that the language of the island of Saint Domingo, aka the Dominican Republic in Haiti, Las Casas even goes so far as to say that the language of the island of Saint Domingo was corrupt Hebrew. His conviction of a fact which he may have had many reasons for choosing not to divulge. Oh, they wanted to clarify the controversy regarding who is responsible for building the mounds. In the late 19th century, when the tablet was found, Cyrus Thomas, The director of the mound excavations concluded the inscription presented letters from the Cherokee alphabet. That's what Cyrus Thomas said.
Come on, y'all. We're talking about the Back Creek Stone I was showing you earlier.
This interpretation was accepted at the time, but was contested about a century later by Cyrus Gordon. Oh shit, we got Cyrus versus Cyrus. Contested about a century later by Cyrus Gordon, a scholar of Near Eastern cultures and ancient languages, who re-examined the tablet in the 1970s and proposed that the inscription represented Paleo-Hebrew of the first
consultation with Mike. A lot of information, in a short period of time. It was very valuable. I'm definitely excited. To searching on my genealogy. He's been an awesome resource. Gave me a lot of information, a lot of things to the puzzle I didn't have. He was able to help me find them, and I 100% recommend and his services to anyone who's looking to crack the code, so to speak, on their genealogy. Because there's a lot. How we say fake news going around with this subject, and it's very important that people put the pieces together. If you don't know your history, you don't know your future. 100%.
Mike TV. He's knowledgeable about his information about the American Indians, and how we change our classification over time in the different types of mounds and different rules from the French, from the British. If you want viable information, you want to really find out who in your lineage and who are the people you come from, I suggest going with Mike TV. His prices are affordable. He's not like some of these other people out here. I urge, go with Mike TV.
My bad, y'all. You said that there was a bit of an echo there for a moment. Hopefully the second testimony will play through okay.
The consensus among archaeologists is that the tablet is a hoax. Surprise, 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 surprise. He wrote several books on transcultural diffusion and the ethnic composition of pre-Columbian America, chiefly of Mesoamerica. Based on analysis of archaeological pieces, both his own and others, von Wuthenau argued that the continent, contrary to mainstream theories, was ethnically heterogeneous and populated by people of Amerindian, Black, White, Middle Eastern, Asian, and mixed race appearance, and thus had been thoroughly contacted by outside groups prior to European colonization in the 15th century. These ideas were opposed by many Mexican academics and have been described as lacking evidence. I wonder why Mexican academics oppose his works. This is not what they're supposed to look like. Who are these? Nah, bro. Nah, man.
And my bad, guys. I just heard it back, and yeah, the echo was diabolical on that one testimonial. I'm gonna play that back real quick, hopefully without the echo this time.
Just finished my consultation with Mike. A lot of information in a short period of time, but it was very valuable information. I'm definitely excited to get started searching on my genealogy. He has been an awesome resource. Gave me a lot of information, a lot of things, a lot of pieces to the puzzle I didn't have. He was able to help me find them. And I 100% recommend Mike and his services to anyone who's looking to crack the code, so to speak, on their genealogy. Because there's a lot of how we say fake news going around with this subject. And it's very important that people are able to put the pieces together, because if you don't know your history, you don't know your future. So 100% sign up.
Mexico, you said? Nah. No. That's a Mayate. Ezekiel 27 mentions the various clans of Japhethites and their role in the mercantile kingdom of Tyrus. Take note that Javan, Tubal, and Meshech traded in the persons of men. These bloodlines include the Greek, the Spanish, the Italian, the Portuguese, in addition to the Turks, Armenians, and Russians. The sons of Japheth are not part of the story up until this point in the biblical narrative. and then still aren't playing a contemporaneous role within the context of the story. Why is that? How is that even possible, given what we know about all of their quote-unquote geographic proximity? And yet Isaiah 66:19 describes these people as being from isles afar off, in the context of Gentiles. But if Israel is really located where they say it is, why would these places be considered isles afar off? Probably for the same reason they are just now becoming part of the story. Now, who does this sound like?
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.